Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 158.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because I'm guessing you already know what we're going to talk about. Yes, that's right. We're going to talk about cash flow one more time. You're like, how many different ways can there be to create cash flow? That's the fun thing, and why you keep coming is because there are so many, and certain ones fit us better than others, and that's exactly what we're going to discover today. Because you may not realize it, but a lot of us are participating in a different type of economy today than we have been in a long time. And today's guest is an absolute expert in what she calls the membership economy. We're going to learn a lot about that because I think we as real estate investors for sure have an edge in this particular type of an economy. And most importantly, I think we're going to learn a lot of how we might be able to go out there and diversify ourselves, not just with real estate, but outside of real estate, and to find other ways of making it happen. So today's guest is Robbie Kellman Baxter. She's the founder of Peninsula Strategies, a consulting firm founded in 2001 that helps companies excel in the membership economy. And again, we're going to find out what that is. A couple of things of note to think about. Today's guest has been able to work with companies like Netflix now, and I know you've heard of them. Also, SurveyMonkey, as well as Yahoo, but don't let that stop you from contacting her because she also enjoys working with quote unquote little guy and little gal as well. That means you and we can learn so many things from people who have seen the inside of large companies and how they work. And most importantly, can help you and I apply some of those very same tactics. So get your pen and paper out and help me welcome Ms. Robbie Kellman Baxter. Robbie, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good,
Great.
good. Glad that you're here. Now, you being new to the Cashflow Diary family, you may not know the first question that I'm going to ask you, but I tend to ask everybody the same first question, simply because I look at today's entrepreneurs, and obviously you were one of them, as like yesterday's superheroes, when you can think about, Miss Marvel or Wonder Woman or, Batman, Robin, what have you, you've got these superheroes. They get dressed up. They have a special set of skills, and they use those skills and talents and abilities to save people and provide hopefully a better quality of lifestyle for them in some way, shape, or form. And I look at entrepreneurs today as we do the same thing. However, before we put on those capes and masks and leotards and tights, we tend to have an alternate ego, or we started in a completely different way. Something happened to us that turned us into who we are today. Before we're able to serve companies like, Netflix or SurveyMonkey or Yahoo or any of those things, we were someone else. We thought differently in a lot of cases, and we just came from somewhere. In short, we all have an origin story. So what we want to know before we dive into understanding the membership economy is, who is Robbie Kellman Baxter?
So the origin story is, I've always been a rule follower and an achiever. And I got to a certain point of always following the rules, going to the right schools, getting the right jobs, and realizing, probably like a lot of your listeners, that I had very little control over my own destiny. And my new life as a consultant, as an independent consultant, because I worked in big firm consulting for several years, happened when I got laid off while I was on maternity leave. And I think that sort of was the first sharp left turn, because it was when I stepped off the obvious path of what I was supposed to do, what other people did, what was the good thing to do. And then I would say that my second sharp left turn was when, so I left, I became an independent consultant at a time when there were very few. I mean, now there's lots of people that are independent consultants and solo practitioners, and much more common. But the second thing that I did that I think was really meaningful for me is that one of my early clients was, as you mentioned, Netflix. And up until that point, I'd been a generalist, general strategy person. I thought you were going to ask me what my superpower was. And I actually had an answer, because I was going to say my superpower, which is so kind of dorky, but my superpower is that I can see frameworks and patterns in messy situations. And I can sort of see through all the clutter to frame it and simplify it and help somebody come to an answer. And so I'd been doing that as a generalist for many years. And then I went and worked at Netflix, and I fell in love with their business model for exactly the same reason I think that you fell in love with real estate, which is it has a recurring revenue model. It has predictable cash flow. And so after working with Netflix, virtually, I would say 70 to 80% of all my clients over the past 11 years have been subscription-based or membership-based businesses that are trying to build ongoing formal relationships with their customers to generate predictable revenue.
Well, and you bring up some interesting things, especially when we start talking about predictable cash flow, and we're going to definitely talk about that. But I love the fact you said, there's an interesting something that you said it a couple of times, and I'm just curious because I get curious about odd things. You said sharp left turn, and I was thinking, why not right turn? That's honestly the thought that was coming into my head, and I know it probably is just a phrase you say, but is there a meaning behind would a right turn have been better?
No, left turns are harder.
Okay, got it.
If you've ever learned to drive, which I'm guessing living in LA, you at some point had to learn to drive. And I don't want to take you back to any traumatic times in your life, but it was a hard time for me. Making a left turn is hard.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Unless you're, of course, in England right now, then it's a whole different.
Yeah, for your international audience, it may be, may resonate less, but.
Got it. Now I understand. I was just curious. I was like, why left? But it laid off while on maternity leave. Wow. That's like the wake up call of wake up calls.
Yeah. Totally legal, by the way.
But yet at the same time, you're like, you're preparing. I mean, there's this, you're preparing for one of the most greatest experiences of your life. And you're like, okay, cool. And a number of the mothers that I've seen, they're like, I don't want to go back to work, but I'll go because it makes sense. That it's what I've got to do. And then you find out that, oh no, I don't go.
Yeah.
That had to be a very interesting thing. Now, what happens is most people, when we are confronted with something like that, if we've grown up having a certain pattern, for example, if we go, hey, I need money, the employee mindset says, well, I need another job.
Right.
But you chose not to. And I got to know why.
Because I was afraid it would happen again. I
see.
So I know this is not the main topic for this podcast series, but I think it's very hard. My boss, one of my bosses, told me because this was not my first child, but he had told me that I was not, and he did not mean this as an insult. He said, you're not my go-to person because I know I can't call you on the weekend because I know you're with your family. Whereas he was very honest about saying, I do call your peer with the same title who's a man. And it hit me that it was going to be an uphill battle to move forward as fast as I wanted to and to be rewarded based on my contribution as a mom of young kids.
Wow.
And I'm pretty ambitious, and I just thought, wow, I am going to be both going to work every day and leaving my family and not achieving the way I want to. Like, it's kind of the worst of all possible worlds, no freedom and not really seeing how I'm going to get where I want to go. And so I really had to rethink what having a career meant.
Wow. And you did, clearly, and you took confident action in the direction of where you wanted to go. Now, you've got to clear something up for us, because I know most people, when they're trying to make that leap, I know for me, I couldn't go, hey, Mr. Multi-million dollar, billion-dollar company, how about you be my client first? You know, you got to, getting Netflix out of the gate, there has to be a story on how that happened.
Yeah. So first of all, I would say that I used some really nice language that implied I was much braver than I was.
Okay.
What I actually did was I said, okay, I'm going to spend 6 months and see if I can make this independent consultant thing work. If I can figure out how I could make a living. Because I had a number. I have to make a certain amount of money. My husband has to, so that we could afford our house and our lifestyle. And I thought, well, if it doesn't work, I'll go back to get a job. And so that was the first thing. And then I said, for my first few consulting gigs, I said, if I can make more than this much per hour, and I was still, now I'm value-based, but at the time I was just hourly.
Right.
I will do anything if it falls into the general category of marketing and strategy. So I didn't even go to my highest and best use or my vision of how I wanted my career to go. I was like, I will just do what I need to do. And I had a couple of, I fell into the first big project, through I had the benefit that I'd been a strategy consultant before, so I knew what consulting looked like. And I'd gone to business school, and I knew a lot of people that ran businesses. And somebody said, hey, I have an opportunity to do a project for Sun Microsystems, which is a huge company at the time. And I did that, and that turned into one project after another. And I thought, okay, now I understand how this works. You get a couple of big clients, there's lots of projects, you go from one to the next. And I had enough confidence after about 6 or 8 months that I started to really invest in building a consulting practice.
Got it. Well, I'm sure the day that Netflix says yes, you go, oh my gosh, this is an amazing something.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was, I think Netflix was 2.5 years into consulting. So I'd had 2.5 years of earning more than I'd been earning as a, director of product at a Silicon Valley tech company. And then somebody asked me to work on a project at Netflix. It was actually a short project, and it turned into almost 2 years of different projects. And this is all a while ago. I mean, this is 11 years ago now.
Oh, well, there's still very few people that I'm aware of who can say that they've worked with such a company, but you've taken that information and been able to see how to use it and leverage what it is that they have the ability to do quite so well, is create what that predictable cash flow was.
Yes.
So what was it, I guess, before we go there, because I was about to just dive right in on my own assumptions, I want to know, in your words, what is the membership economy?
The membership economy is a term I coined to describe this massive change that I've seen in the way organizations engage with their customers. It's a transition from ownership to access, from transactional to relational, and from being anonymous to being known by the organizations with whom you do business.
Okay, got it. Now, what do you mean by ownership to access? What is
ownership to access? So should be familiar to, in the real estate world. If I own a piece of property, if I own a house, I have a lot of flexibility and control. I can tear it down. I can remodel it. I can paint it. I can do all kinds. I mean, there's some limits, but I can do whatever I want. I also have to spend a lot more money than if I rented.
Yes.
And I also have a lot more responsibility, because if something breaks, that's my problem.
Yes.
If something goes wrong, it's my problem. If I want to move, selling it is my problem. It's an asset that comes with a lot of burdens. Mm-hmm. So in some cases, it makes sense to take those burdens in exchange for the privileges of ownership. But in a lot of cases, you just want to access the benefits. So, hotels, rentals, timeshares, fractional ownerships, Airbnb, sharing of properties, all of those things are different ways that you can get the same value, that is access to a physical roof over your head, but with all kinds of different business models.
Nice. I like it. And even though obviously Netflix and companies like it, they don't necessarily do real estate, they still have these same components when you're saying ownership. So instead of owning the DVD, you have access to the DVD.
You have access to the whole collection. Yeah, and you
Correct.
don't have the burdens. Like in their case, the burden of ownership is number one, where do I put all the DVDs? Number two, I can't possibly afford every DVD that I might ever want to watch. And, the DVD technology becomes obsolete over time. So, I don't know if you ever, did VHS.
I did.
I think
And
you and I
beta.
are about.
And beta too.
Oh, boy. I never went there. But, then you're stuck with obsolete technology. Whereas if you're a member of Netflix, the promise is that you're going to get access to great video content in whatever the most current, useful, high-quality format is. So, it used to be DVDs with Netflix, and they still let you get DVDs. But most people now that are Netflix subscribers get their content via live streaming, right? Or not live stream, but streamed content.
Yeah.
And that's because that is the best and easiest and highest quality way to experience their content.
Well, what happened for us on that one, because I remember when we made that decision, my children, all those kids DVDs, Dora the Explorer and Thomas the Train and all this other stuff. It's like they come out with a new one every 3 weeks and the kids would want it. I'm like, we're not playing that game, because they're going to end up scratching it, ruining it, and it's going to be the favorite one, and we're not going to have access to it when you need it, and then daddy's going to have to go buy another DVD. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. And that's how we started streaming Netflix, is because I didn't want to have to keep buying the same kid DVD over and over and over again. And we could just stream it. And that, I don't even know how much money that saved us, but it was definitely worthwhile to just have access to it. Now I get that. I get that 100%. Now you say transactional to relationship?
Yeah. So with a transaction, right? I sell you something, we have a transaction, and then it's your problem.
Okay.
Right? You own it, caveat emptor, all of that. It's your responsibility. If we have an ongoing relationship, so for example, I would imagine in the real estate world, a renting relationship is an ongoing formal relationship.
Got that right.
So the transaction, the day you sign the agreement with the renter, is not the end it's not the end, it's the starting line.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
so.
And maybe with some problems, but what we call in the SaaS world, in the software as a service world, customer success. If you don't onboard your renter properly, you don't set expectations with them, if you don't get them to use, your asset in the proper way, you run into a lot of problems, because it's an ongoing relationship. They can choose to leave at any time if they find that they don't like working with you. On the other hand, if you have a nice relationship with them, as you've talked about, predictable cash flow forever, because they're not going to move unless something happens if you're meeting their needs.
Well, and this is one of the things that I think I want you to talk about a little bit more, because I know as a lot of investors, or real estate or otherwise, we can get guilty of, we can go, I just bought the house, and the house is what's going to produce the return, or the building or the apartment complex or whatever, and go, I don't need to do anything else. All my work is quote unquote done.
No, it's just getting started, right?
I know.
And yes, that is the challenge and the opportunity. And I would say that the people that understand that end up having greater, it's too many organizations become enamored of their own products, and I would say in real estate, that's loving the building, or the home, or the office building, the apartment building, whatever, more than the customers,
right?
Or the members or the renters. And if you focus on treating your renters well, you probably get better results than if you just focus on the fact that you have this fantastic asset and expect it to just work for you.
You know what? You keep talking, you're going to be an excellent real estate investor. I'm going to make that happen. Because it's the same. I try to tell people real estate is still a business. For some reason, we forget that it's a business. It's still a business, but as soon as you say real estate, it's like all the other business practices go out the window, and it suddenly becomes all about this, piece of dirt and land and what you're going to do with it. And I'm like, yeah, that's important, but who's going to pay you for the use? When are we going to talk about the customer? And that's really the thing that I care about the most is who's it going to serve? Who are we going to serve? And let's figure out how we can use this piece of real estate to serve them. Or is it the best piece of real estate to serve that particular need or that particular person? Yeah. So, and then there was a third piece. Could you repeat what that was? For you were talking about the membership economy from ownership to access, transactional to relationship, and then I couldn't write fast
anonymous to known.
Anonymous to known. Okay.
Yeah. So what that means is when you have a transaction, the buyer goes away, so you don't really know them.
Okay.
But in the membership economy, because your relationship with them is ongoing,
I see.
As a customer, they are giving up anonymity. And in exchange for that, they're getting the privilege of being known. And so a lot of times when I talk about the membership economy, people say, but I want my privacy. They usually are thinking about it in terms of online business. They say, well, I don't want companies to know what my preferences are. That's none of their business. I don't want them to know how old I am but really the ethical obligation of the organization is to use that information to provide a better experience.
Yeah. Because if I don't know, I can't serve you.
Right. And over time, as you get to know this is totally true of small businesses. As they get to know you, you certainly give up some of your privacy, but you also get special benefits because, they might call you to tell you that there's, the latest, if in the old days of having a record store, they say, the new record is here. Come get it. I held one back for you. Or you walk into your favorite diner and, they know what you like to eat. So the food is ready almost when you sit down.
Right.
Or, in the case of like a hotel, when you go and they're like, you want the room closest to the elevator with the view, or you need the double beds, or you need the no smoking room. It's, the fact that they know things about you, the trade-off is they know things about you and then they give you a better experience.
In theory, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. Now, just for the sake of a few people, just so that you know, a record store is what used to exist before there was iTunes. Okay, iTunes. Think of iTunes, but in a store. Okay, got it. Now, with all that being the case, then how does this? Okay, so let's say, obviously, we do real estate, but there are a number of us who also do many other businesses with the awareness that we're in this membership economy. It sounds as though are you saying that the traditional transactional style business is somehow going away or disappearing, or should I be thinking of a way to create a membership?
Yes, you should be thinking of a way.
Okay.
I would advise virtually any kind of organization to be thinking about how to build ongoing formal relationships with their customers. So let me give you a totally different example. Professional services. I bet that some of your listeners are content creators, people like you even that, have podcasts, you create content. In some cases, there's some content that's available for free. There's some content that's available at a price. Maybe there's consulting or training or workshops. Maybe there's, experiences where you go to a lovely place and you have a week-long, intensive experience, all those things. You can build membership into those kind of models too. So in historically in consulting or any kind of like law or any kind of professional services business, you would do it kind of transaction by transaction. I'm going to do this for you. It's going to take 6 weeks. It's going to cost this much. I'm going to write your estate plan for you. It's going to take 3 days. It's going to cost this much. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you let them be part of a community, you can just restructure what you're offering them to provide greater value. So, if I'm getting an estate plan written for me, probably it's because, in most cases, the time when you have your will written is usually when you have valuable things in your life, which are usually either assets or children or both.
And hopefully your children become an asset at some point.
Right. But that's, most people go see the estate planning attorney when they have kids and they're like, oh boy, I need to have a plan for what if I die? Who gets my kids? How does the money get, do they just inherit it when they're 12 or do they have to, all those things.
Yes.
So not only do you need the estate plan, but probably it would be helpful to meet the other kinds of professional services providers that you might need. It might be useful to talk to other people who are at your same life stage and have a community so that you can, maybe talk about things like, well, what if you don't really want your brother-in-law to take care of your kids because you don't really like how he's raising his own kids? Those kinds of questions. You can build community where people peer-to-peer, can help one another, and then they can also give you feedback about what kind of additional content or expertise they need. Mm-hmm. And you can start creating different offerings, different tiers of value that people get where they're paying you on an ongoing basis. So maybe I got my estate plan this year, but maybe I sign up with my estate planning attorney for ongoing services and connection. Or like if you run a nail salon, mm-hmm. Maybe instead of saying it's, $15 to get a manicure, you say, and most people get their manicures done every week, you say, if you join our community, you can always get touch-ups anytime you drop in. It's all included. It's $60 a month. And we have happy hour for our members from, 3 to 5. And we have drinks, and you get to know the other people who also like getting their nails done. And
got it. This is like, when you're talking, I'm starting to, it's funny when you're talking, like actual company names are starting to come to my mind. Like, oh, that's what they're doing. One of the ones that just came to my mind was like Massage Envy. I was like, oh, okay. Cause they have I don't know what it is. My wife is always going, the membership where she can just keep going and going. But you still have the option to go, one off at a time if you need to, but you have a certain set of prepackaged services that are already included. Now, all right, I can be something of a bottom line person. This sounds like extra work. Help me understand how this results in extra cash flow. All right, guys. As you can tell, I'm excited about this particular interview, and you should be too, because we're learning so many different ways of looking at the business that you have probably seen before, and you're seeing it through the eyes of a person who's mastered other ways of creating passive income. And that's what gets me excited, is the fact that we can take information from one genre of business and put it into another and find a way to leverage that information so that we can all be more successful together. Man, I absolutely got to tell you guys that I love the opportunity to meet all of these entrepreneurs. And remember, you're going to be the same today as you will be tomorrow, except for the books you read and the people you meet.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens is, in any business, as you know probably better than anybody that I've talked to, you want to have predictable cash flow because it allows you to plan ahead. It allows you to invest. It gives you peace of mind that you're going to be able to pay your expenses. So if you think about, let's say, the nail salon or the Massage Envy, if somebody is in a subscription, you know how much money's coming in. You're better able to plan your staffing. And once someone signs up, they make a habit out of certain behaviors. It becomes part of their regular routine. So let's say that your wife does a massage every Tuesday at 10. She's going to pay every month and it becomes part of her life. Whereas if she has to make an appointment for a massage, she might end up doing it every 2 months or every 4 months. Or she might say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been a year since I got a massage. I just never got around to it. Whereas if it's in her calendar and it's part of her routine and she's already paid for it, or as she looks at it, it's free because she's a member, she's going to use it more.
Yes. Okay. Now you're touching on. Okay. Got it. So then I guess the question becomes, if this is going to be the way to have more customers and have that predictability, it's really going to come down to consumption of the service. And so how do we get someone to make our product a habit. I mean, one of the things I'm always thinking about is that I want to make a product that becomes a verb, because now, hey, people say, just Google it, right?
Right.
It's a verb. It's now, Facebook me later. Like, how can I make a product that becomes a verb? So the question becomes what are there strategies that we can employ to make our anything become a habit like that? Because that would be powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say that you have a membership model. Let's say that you have a subscription and you want people to behave in a certain way. So like the example I feel like we've used Netflix to death, but let's talk about who else is fun? LinkedIn. Okay. So that's another one. It's a verb, right? Hey, in fact, I just tried to link in with you. We'll see if you respond.
Right.
But what do they want? They want you to adopt certain behaviors. So you come to you probably don't even remember when you signed up for LinkedIn because it's probably been a long time for you. But, when I signed up, originally I did it because it was basically a free website for my resume. I didn't have any contacts, but it was a place that I could send people and say, oh, go to this place called linkedin.com/whatever. And you can see everywhere I've worked and where I went to school. But over time, they have encouraged me to demonstrate certain behaviors. They encouraged me to upload my entire contact base so that I linked in with all my friends, which of course makes it stickier for me because now all my friends are there and all of their contact information is there. They encouraged me. They sort of done a little bit of almost gamification to get me to input all the different categories of information that they want from me. So I think they have like some kind of a circle that gets filled up as I, add information about my schools and information about my jobs and information about my hobbies and information about the nonprofits that I work with. And so each time I say, oh, look, I'm an all-star. That feels so good. I'm an all-star on LinkedIn. And so they're motivating me. So what does that mean for people in general? Well, the first thing is you want to remove friction to the subscription experience. So if somebody signs up for Massage Envy, you want to get them on that massage table as fast as you can. So they get that, they get into it. They don't have to do a lot of paperwork or a lot of other stuff. They decide they want to do it. And it's like really quick that they're through all the sign up stuff. The second thing you want to do is you want to have them experience the benefit of being a member. So in a massage, it's, wow, somebody's rubbing my back and it feels great. But I have a client, a small business called Curbo, which is a weight loss program. It's an online weight loss program for adolescents. It's really, it's an amazing program. The problem is that when you start, there is a big lag from the day you say, I'm going to lose weight until you actually have lost the weight. And so what they've done is they've gamified the first few weeks of your experience. So they've put in little things that the kids can do to learn, red light foods and green light foods. And they have little rewards, like little online rewards for completing, doing the inputting for what foods you've eaten each day. Or for inputting your exercise for the day. And what that does is it creates an artificial benefit that rewards people for doing those behaviors. And that's what you want to do. Whatever behaviors you want your customers to do, you want to reward them for doing it, especially in the first 30 days so that they make it a habit. Because they're going to decide right then and there if you're going to be a habit or you're going to be something that they cancel. And then the last thing that you want to do, so you've removed friction, you've given them benefits. The last thing you want to do is you want to give them feedback that they're doing it right. Because people love feedback and people, we haven't even talked about sort of the motivations of why. We've talked a lot about why companies and organizations love this, but people love it because we want to be recognized and we want to belong. We want to be seen for the contributions and the achievements that we've made. And organizations that can provide those good feelings are going to win.
Okay. I'm sorry. I am I'm so busy taking notes right now. My hand, I'm like, I can't write this fast. I'm actually kind of glad. I'm glad this is recorded because this is good.
So nice.
Now, when you say people like it as well, I'm just gonna. It seems easier to me to sell a one-time product than it is to get someone to sign up for a subscription anything. I know it is for me. I'd rather pay, in some cases, $200 once than have to sign up for something for $20 a month.
Okay.
So but you're saying we want this. And
but you subscribe to Netflix and your wife subscribes to Massage Envy. So there are some places.
That's true.
There are some places that make sense. So there are times, so like what I would say, we could go into detail and look through your credit card statements, but I would imagine that there's some things where you would either say the benefit of ownership outweighs the flexibility of access, or where you say the freedom of anonymity outweighs the benefits of belonging and being known. Right? And so there are cases, it's not like I do everything through the membership economy, right? We own our own home. We have a swimming pool. We don't belong to a country club. I mean, there are definitely things that we do that are, and there's reasons for that. I like the control of having a pool and being able to invite people over and not having to drive. That, but but there are lots of people who say, oh my God, why do you have a pool? Right. You'll never make the money back on your pool the way
Right. That's me, by the way. That's me. Because when I'm looking at property, I'm looking at income and expenses, and I'm like, oh God, there goes a money pit right there. Pool. I'm like, I don't want pools. I just don't want that stuff. But I get where this is awesome. Because this is a different way of looking at business that obviously, I mean, in my head, I call, landlording, I guess we could call that the original membership model.
That's what I call it in the book.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, yeah, because I talk about property as being something that has been, we've had membership models forever. I mean, somebody asked, the sharing economy is this kind of buzzwordy thing now that's like, Airbnb and Uber, where people are sharing their own assets.
Uber.
Do you?
Uber. I love Uber.
Oh, it's so great. So here's the funny thing. They're like, well, this is a new model. And I'm like, okay, vacation rental by owner is totally sharing economy.
Right.
Right? It's people saying, oh, I have this vacation property that is underutilized. I'm going to make it available to other people directly so that, these are not new ideas. It's just technology is extending the infrastructure of trust and making it easier for us to do this with people we don't know.
Wow. So so here's the thing. If I want to go out there and Robbie, do you have like the top 10 commandments of what you must do in order to have a successful membership economy on anything across any vertical, any market, in any place? It's got to have these components. If you don't have these components, you're going to fall apart. Okay.
So I tried to do that when I was writing the book. I tried to say, these are the things you need to have. And what I came up with was that there is no one thing that defines. But wait, I have something good. So there's no one thing that defines membership economy. So I used to think, maybe it's just having a subscription payment model, or maybe it's peer-to-peer contact so people are helping each other, or maybe it's access over ownership, or one of these things. But what I realized is membership is an attitude. It's how you feel about the people that you're doing business with. And when I work with companies, I talk about 7 steps to get to the membership economy, which are 7 things. You might go through those 7 steps, Jay, and say, okay, 1, 6, and 7 totally rock my world and really improve my business model. But the other ones are not relevant to what I do. And that's okay with me. I don't mind if you don't use all 7. And there are things like the organizational structure. You need to have the right people, the right titles, and the right roles to support ongoing relationships. So, for example, most transactional companies, they might have tech support or customer service, but they don't really have customer success. They don't really think about who's going to be responsible for making sure that the person has an ongoing good experience after they sign up with me. Another one is the use, I call it, the use of freemium. Considering the role of free and freemium in your business model, which is the idea that you can provide some value to bring more people into your network, which makes your network more valuable for all of your members. Also, it's a great way for trial so that these people might upgrade to your paid services, or they even become the voice. Sometimes you have something where, like, let's say LinkedIn, where the people who aren't paying are actually bringing in people who do pay. And so they're actually a lead source. So, anyway, those are 2 examples of the 7 steps. And I have a chart I can send over to you if you want. But those are the kinds of things that everybody should think, what can I give away for free to extend my reach? Is there something that I could give away for free forever, like a newsletter or access to some of my events, or like in your case, free podcasts, that's going to build awareness and help people understand the kind of value I provide so that they can engage with me at a higher level?
If you could see me right now, I have a whole bunch of goosebumps all over myself, right? Because I'm just like, because you are contextualizing and crystallizing something that we've been doing, but I didn't have a context for. I didn't know what to call it. I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's my superpower.
Oh, okay.
I frame things. That is, that is the thing that I love. I appreciate you saying that. It makes me feel so good, because that is really, facetiousness aside, that's what motivates me, is if I can come up with a framework that helps somebody else see clearly what they can do to make their life better.
Right.
It feels so good.
Well, and here's the thing. All right. So we do have a membership where we teach a lot of people the techniques that I use just to build, our real estate business, etc. And they center around I just never I didn't call it a membership economy and all these things, but I'm just like, it centers around them becoming the provider of content and education and information, the resource for other people, which by default means you've got to have a mechanism through which to, gather people around the table, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we use that, with the cash flow board game, and we use that with online strategies and all this other stuff, so that they have a circle or a database from which to choose from when it comes time to actually go out and execute a real estate transaction. And to hear you crystallize this so well is just like, oh my God, this is why because you can do things and not know really like, why is this working? I'm just doing it because I know it works. But to hear you go, yeah, this works for this reason, and to connect those things, we can become more intentional. Because one of the things I've been thinking about, and I think you're saying, is we don't necessarily have a quote unquote community manager, someone who's in our, like, we have a exclusive Facebook group. And people are in there all the time talking about the transactions, trying to get some help. And, I participate, and every other members participate, and people are getting deals done and things are happening. But there isn't that's not a position currently, like in the company, where your job is to make sure that everybody in the Facebook group, or everybody when they get their trial, is they get everything that they're supposed to, get there. They go through an orientation or blah. Yeah, I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But okay.
And that there's a way to, and some of it can be done, depending on where you are in your process. So for your business, maybe you say, well, the Facebook people, I just, maybe we do an automated way to make them feel welcome. We do some automated thing. Maybe that's emails, maybe we follow them back, or we friend them back. But then when somebody buys something, or maybe when somebody starts to elicit the behaviors that indicate that they might be ready for something more, maybe that's when customer success person engages with them. Or maybe it's after somebody spent a lot of money with you. Yeah, and you want to make sure that you say, okay, you just went to our program. We're calling you a week later. Are you making more money? Are you making investments? Or did you just put the binder on the shelf, as it were, and said, okay, that was really interesting, but I don't exactly, I have some roadblock. It's a mental roadblock that's holding me back. Because if the person has great success, they're going to come back for more, and they're going to refer other people.
Yes, we've found that to be true. We've had, I just haven't been able to create the referral. You have no idea how many people have asked us to create a referral program. I'm just like, I'm moving as fast as I can. And I'm like, why? Because I wonder, I'm like, why does that happen? And I guess in some weird way, we're doing some of the things that you're saying without understanding that that's what we're doing. And I'm just trying to help people. That's what I keep calling it. I'm like, I'm just trying to help people. I don't even know what that means, but that's what I'm doing.
And that's coming. I mean, that's being purpose driven and mission driven, which is the only way to run a membership business. Because if, like I said before, for me, membership, if you run a membership business, it's an attitude, which means these people belong. These are my people. Absolutely. And I'm gonna take care of them. And I don't know what products and services I'm going to use to take care of them, but I've promised I'm going to take care of them in this way. And so as I develop new things, I'm going to share it with them. And
that's exactly right.
That's exactly, and that's what you're doing. And, probably in 5 years, you might not be doing any of the things you're doing today, but you might be delivering on that same promise, but in maybe a more sophisticated way or a more powerful way, or maybe as your members become more successful, they're going to come back and say, okay, we don't need that intro to blah-de-blah that you have. We need the advanced placement class.
Yeah.
Right? Or we have enough money now. Now we need to think about how do we help others, or how do we, I don't know, build our spirituality, or, who knows what. Right. But, you're going to just keep, because these are your people. So you're just going to keep looking for things that you can do to help them.
Okay. All right. You're bringing up something that I haven't been able to figure out. And you're probably the only person I currently know that can even have insight into this. One of the quote unquote challenges, and I'm using air quotes here lightly, that we often have is someone comes in, they don't know anything about real estate, right? Or they don't know how to transact and build the database and get a deal done or raise the capital, etc. They come in, they start participating in the information, and it may take them, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, but they get it. And then when they start to get it, they start to earn really large checks, which is great. And that's exactly why they came. That's exactly what I want. But during that 6-month period, while they're, gaining the skill sets and doing and implementing the strategies, they're hyperactive. They're in the groups. They're doing the thing, making it happen. And then they get a couple of checks, 4-figure, 5-figure checks, whatever. And then they disappear. And I'm just like, why? What?
Okay. So I have some thoughts on that.
Yes.
Okay. So number one, you need to keep providing valuable services and content for your advanced placement members.
Okay.
Okay. So now I've got so what advice would you give, or what help would you give to somebody who says, okay, I've got some 4-figure and some 5-figure checks coming in. I'm no longer worried about, supporting myself. What is the next thing that would be on that person's mind, and how can you help them with that? Where is the next step on their journey? Well,
they still have to systematize it. I mean, they're still a one-man band or one-woman band.
Right.
And they still got to get to that system level to where those same checks can happen without them being directly involved on a day-to-day basis.
So they're like I have a mentor, and he calls it, you want to decrease your labor intensity. That's what I would say. They're like, okay, I'm making money, but I'm working really hard.
Right.
So like you'd say, okay, so you need to systematize things. Maybe you need to hire help. Maybe you need to stop doing the small deals and focus on bigger deals now that you have some capital.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's your advanced placement class. And you need to offer that to people and have some requirements. This is a class that's offered to people who are making between, at least $100,000 a year free and clear, or whatever your number is. So
that's a good number. That's you're hitting those are the individuals that I'm like, I got you that far. Don't leave now.
Right. The second thing is you want to create a culture in your community that people help each other. So
yes.
Probably some of those people by name, the ones that have been most successful.
Of course.
And you could feature them and you may already be doing some of this, but you would want to feature them on your show. You would want to encourage them to guest blog about what's worked for them, or how they've interpreted what you've taught them, like their own flavor of, Jay Massey's cash flow, like what are they doing differently? Mm-hmm. Because maybe, I'll give you the example with my mentor, who's Alan Weiss, who's, they call him the $1 million consultant. He has a certain style. First of all, he's a man. He's older than I am. He's from New York. He has an aggressive style. So sometimes when I would look at him and he'd give advice, I'd think, I can't do that. Like, that's just not me. But then I'd see somebody else, like a woman my age, or it could be a man who kind of has more of my background or does the kind of consulting I do. And I'd look at how he did it. And he's still following those same principles, but with his own flavor. And I would get it, right? I would like, oh, I get it now. And so making space for your best students to become teachers and mentors. And you can do that in a formal way. You can do it in an informal way. You can, and you want to create that culture. That's part of membership, is that there's an expectation. If you think about like a fraternity or a church, there's an expectation that the people who are having success stay and help the people, there's a spirit of community and of helping. And, one great example, I know we're probably running out of time, is CrossFit. The workout
I know
phenomenon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that they do is that when, they have their model is you go to kind of a class. So you go like, your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 to 8. And the same people go to that class, mostly every week. And they all have the same workout, like do as many push-ups as you can until you're exhausted. And then you have to run 3 miles on a treadmill. Then you do something else or whatever. Well, everybody stays until everybody's completed the task. So if it involves something like running 3 miles, maybe you can run a 6-minute mile, but I run a 12-minute mile or a 14-minute mile. That means you stick around till I'm done. And so you're standing there, probably not even out of breath anymore, saying, go, Robbie, go. Good job. You can do it. You might talk to me afterwards and say, Robbie, I used to do a 12-minute mile. Now I do a 6-minute mile. So you can do this. So your best members become your super users. That's what you want. You want your best users to be your super users. You don't want them to love you and leave you.
And that's the thing. And I haven't figured out what the magic is. Some do, some don't. And I'm just like, some, and I'm sure they're listening to us right now and they're wondering which ones I'm talking about. But some of you guys, they stay and they help and it helps everybody. And I'm like, yes. And they begin to take ownership of, what we're building together in terms of the real estate community. And that's what gets us excited for sure. Because it's like, yeah, they're getting it. They're helping. And I'm watching this unfold before my eyes. But at the same time, I'm just like, how can we do that part better? So yes, yeah. Why do we have to have time limits on things? Go ahead.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to say.
Yes.
So I actually coach people on, independent, like what I would call independent content providers and consultants, which is what I would call you, on how to build their business model. And if you look in the book, there's a section called What You Can Learn from Small Businesses and Professional and Consultancies. And I have a case study of Alan Weiss, who's my mentor, and it goes through a lot of this stuff. And, take a look at it. And I think probably a lot of your, there's some I'm sure that are, most are in real estate, but I know you said it's about cash flow. Yeah. So some of them may also be, content providers, thought leaders. And so this might be a really useful thing for them.
It's been useful for me on all fronts. I mean, at the same time, I've got to treat these same principles apply when it comes to making sure that you get your, rent checks. Cause I tell people all the time, one of the funny things, Robbie, is people say, I don't want to sell anything. I just want to do real estate. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? Well, I just want to be a landlord. I'm like, cool. Well, then you're selling the same piece of real estate every 30 days. That's literally what you're doing.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
It's like good. So, and when they start to realize that, they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's work every 30 days. You got to continually provide the service that gets the person to want to give you the check.
Yes.
It doesn't just happen. So there's so many of these things that I'm listening and taking notes on. I'm just like, oh goodness, my pen might even run out of ink. It's just awesome. So now if I'm certain there are a number of people listening right now who want to just consume and understand everything that you have to offer and make possible, because you're already, even in this short while, you've created some distinctions for myself that are allowing me to now go, okay, here's what we need to do next. What does the person who is listening right now, what's the best way for them to stalk you and find you online or offline or whatever and get more of what you've already delivered so far?
Yeah, well, great. Thank you for asking. I would say, the book is full of this information and a lot of the frameworks. And so that is a cheap and highly efficient way to get some of these ideas. And for the people that really want to dig into this, this is what I do. I work with independent service providers and entrepreneurs all the time. And so they can reach me at, peninsulastrategies.com. And we can talk about working together if that's something that people want to do. So
excellent. I mean, I know I've learned a ton. Now, Robbie, let me ask this question. So, for the person or persons right now who are considering, maybe for the first time in their life ever, they feel empowered, especially after some of the stuff you shared today. They feel empowered to finally go put on that superhero outfit. They're in the store, possibly choosing the color of their cape and mask right now, but yet they're feeling still a little trepidation. What would you say to him or her?
I would say have a backup plan and make a series of small experiments.
I like that.
So just the same way that I would say with anybody that's a membership economy business, that runs a membership economy business, you always want to have a series of small experiments rather than a big reveal. It's just too risky. So I would never sell, like when I see people mortgaging their house to the hilt and, borrowing money from their loved ones and throwing it all at something, it makes me really nervous because I think there's almost always a way to test and adjust and figure out if there's a there before you make the huge investment.
Awesome. Well put advice. I definitely appreciate the time that you've invested here with us at the Cashflow Diary, and I thank you for all the stuff that you have shared with us today.
It's been a pleasure, Jay. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? Well, I tell you one thing it means. It means it's time to pick up a book, right? Because and I know, and you just heard that there were so many business principles that apply to not only to your business today, but to the business you dream of in the future. And I'm telling you, it relies on the membership economy. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I know I've learned a lot. Hopefully you did too. And I do look forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.